Scholastic Audio presents First American Colonies, World Discovery History Readers by Yannick Wunny. Read for you by Hrishi Pal. Reader's note. In this recording, there is a bar graph, a little map, and some timelines that will either be included or omitted. End of reader's note. Reader's note. A timeline without a title is shown. There is some information in the timeline. The text says 1600 blank, 1607 Jamestown is founded, 1609 Henry Hudson claims New Netherland for the Dutch, 1620 Plymouth Colony is founded, 1626 New Amsterdam is founded, 1664 England takes over New Amsterdam and calls it New York, 1769 First California Mission founded, 1834 Mexico ends the mission project in California, and the year 1850 is blank. End of reader's note. Reader's note. In this recording, some pictures will appear. Captions appear with the picture, along with the picture, as they are followed. End of reader's note. So just a quick notification there. The first colonies. A long time ago, there were no towns or cities in America. America did not have roads or buildings or stores as we know them today. The land was rich with trees and wildlife. The only people who lived here were the Native Americans. Then, people from faraway lands came to start towns. These first towns were called colonies. Some of the people who came were businessmen. Others came to practice their religions freely. Some came simply for adventure. Whatever their reasons for coming, they all learned that living in a new land could be harsh. Not only were native people sometimes their enemy, but extreme cold, starvation, and disease were fearful enemies too. The stories here are about some of the earliest American colonies and how they survived. Reader's note. A timeline titled Jamestown is shown. There is some information in the timeline. The text says 1600 blank, and then 1607 is also blank because there are some events in the year 1607. April. 104 Englishmen arrive in what is today Chesapeake Bay, Virginia. May. They begin to build James Fort along the James River. December. John Smith is captured by the Powhatan tribe and meets Chief Powhatan and Pocahontas. 1608, a fire destroys food at James Fort. 1609 to 1610, winter, starving time. Many settlers die. I don't know if it says, I'm not sure if it's labeled winter and then starving time, for future reference, or if it's at 1609 to 1610 winter. But anyway, I know this says 1613 spring, but I'm not sure about the other one, 1609 to 1610 winter. 1613 spring, Pocahontas is kidnapped by the settlers. 1614 April, Pocahontas marries settler John Rolfe. And the year 1620 is blank. End of reader's note. And that's probably because Plymouth Colony was founded in 1620. That's why it's blank there. Okay. Chapter 1. A rough beginning for the English. Jamestown, founded 1607. In 1607, the Powhatans lived in a village in present-day Virginia. This Native American Indian tribe was named after their leader, Chief Powhatan. The Powhatans' houses were made of bark and wood. The Indians hunted for their food. They also grew corn. One day, 3 English ships with about 100 men aboard landed near the village. They were businessmen. They came to America to find riches such as furs and gold. After they arrived, a man named John Smith became their leader. Reader's note. A picture is shown. The caption reads, "The Jamestown settlers began building, while the 3 ships they sailed in, the Godspeed, the Discovery, and the Susan Constant, anchor in the harbor." End of caption. End of picture. End of reader's note. "Get ready for winter," John Smith told the men. "Grow crops and hunt for food." But these men wanted to look for gold. They were not interested in starting a colony. But these men wanted to look for gold. They were not interested in starting a colony. John Smith was afraid they would not survive. Some of the men became sick and died. But soon the survivors began building a fort beside a nearby river. They called it James Fort. Okay, I'm making some building sounds there. Chief Powhatan feared that the English would take his tribe's land. He sent his men to get John Smith, Chief Powhatan feared that the English would take his tribe's land. He sent his men to get John Smith and bring him to their village. It is believed that the Powhatans held a great feast and a ceremony to welcome John Smith. In the ceremony, the men pretended to capture John Smith, and the chief's 11-year-old daughter, Pocahontas, pretended to save him. Afterward, Pocahontas and John Smith became friends. Pocahontas often visited James Fort. She liked to play there. She taught the settlers native games. She taught them her language, and they taught her English. Reader's note. Reader's note. Multiple pictures are shown. The captions read, "Children in Jamestown played tag, marbles, hop." Okay, so multiple pictures are shown, okay? So I believe there are 2 captions here. Caption number 1. Children in Jamestown played tag, marbles, hopscotch, leapfrog, and blind man's bluff. They had sack races and rolled. I know this is a caption. They had sack races and rolled hoops. They played with wooden. That's sack races. This part is still part of the caption. Okay. They played with wooden toys, spinning tops, and whirligigs. This boy is playing quoits, another popular game. However, I'm not sure if this is a caption or not, but I'll treat it like one. Caption number 2. The settlers traded with Native Americans for furs such as these to sell to England. End of caption, end of picture, end of reader's note. Then the terrible fire destroyed the settlers' food. Pocahontas brought the settlers corn, fish, and fur to help them through their first long winter in Virginia. A whole year passed. John Smith returned to England. With him away, the Powhatans and the settlers began to fight over the land. It was winter, and the settlers had no food. Many of them died. They called this the starving time. Hope you all can hear this. Good. I hope so, yeah. When the warm weather returned, life got better for the settlers. When the warm weather returned, life got better for the settlers. Families grew, and the settlement grew too. A town was started outside of Jamesport. It was called Jamestown. But the Powhatans and the settlers were still enemies. Then the settlers came up with a plan. They decided to capture Pocahontas. They thought if they captured Chief Powhatan's daughter, the chief would be forced to make peace with them. Peace. Yeah. Pocahontas stayed in Jamesport after she was captured. She wore the same kind of clothes as the other women in the colony. She was given a new name, Rebecca. She married a settler named John Rolfe and had a son. Chief Powhatan would not allow his daughter and her new family to be harmed. At last, Powhatan's men would not attack the settlers. More families settled in Jamestown and began to farm the rich soil. John Rolfe planted tobacco. The tobacco was sold in England for a lot of money. Tobacco became the gold the settlers were looking for. Jamestown had a rough beginning, but in the end, it survived. It became the first permanent English colony in America. Reader's note. A picture is shown. The caption reads, "The English had tried to settle in America before 1607. In 1586, a group of 120 men, women, and children sailed to Roanoke Island near present-day Virginia. A settler named John White sailed back to England to tell the Queen that the colony was doing well. When he returned to the settlement, everyone was gone. Some people think they were killed by Native Americans or simply died from hunger and disease. No one knows for sure. This missing colony is known as the Lost Colony." I'll retry that. When he returned to the settlement, everyone was gone. Some people think they were killed by Native Americans. Some people think they were killed by Native Americans or simply died from hunger and disease. No one knows for sure. This missing colony is known as the Lost Colony. Reader's note. A picture is shown. The caption simply reads, "The Mayflower." End of caption. End of picture. End of reader's note. The settlement, everyone was gone. That could have been better, but anyway, it's fine, I guess. Sorry. There we go. Excuse me. Chapter 2: The Thankful Settlers. Plymouth Colony, founded 1620. Unlike Jamestown, Plymouth was not started by businessmen alone. Half of the people who settled Plymouth were pilgrims. These pilgrims wanted to live in America because they were not allowed to practice their own religion in England. If they did, they were punished and even sent to jail. Other people came because they could not find jobs or buy land in England. They wanted a better life. In 1620, about 100 pilgrims left England on a ship called the Mayflower. Their trip was terrible. The Mayflower got caught in powerful storms, and the passengers were sick and scared. Would they ever see the New World? Would they ever see the New World? Then, finally, on November 19, 1620, land was sighted off what is today known as Cape Cod, Massachusetts. On November 21st, the Pilgrims signed a paper before they came ashore. The paper was called the Mayflower Compact. The Pilgrims agreed to obey their own laws and not the laws of England. There, we have the sound again. Okay. The Pilgrims explored their new homeland. They decided to start a colony in present-day Plymouth. They called it Plymouth Plantation, but they had bad luck their very first year. It was a long, hard winter. The cold weather was very harsh, and the Pilgrims did not have enough food. Many people became sick. More than half of the colonists died that first winter. Many of the survivors were children younger than 16 years old. There we go. Finally, the ice melted and spring came. One day, a native named Samoset, who lived with the Wampanoag, came to visit the colonists. He spoke English. Then Samoset brought another Native American. Then Samoset brought another Native American to the colonists. His name was Tisquantum, and he spoke English too. His nickname was Squanto. Squanto showed the colonists how to hunt, fish, and grow corn. He was a good teacher. Autumn came and the corn was harvested. Fish was salted and meat was cured for the coming winter. With Squanto's help, the colonists would now have enough food for the winter. So that's how my mom usually does the salting when she cooks stuff for me. So that's how when she cooks stuff for the family, not just for me. So that's how it makes it sound, okay? But she doesn't use it with her hands, right? She uses the salt. Salt shaker. Couldn't think of what it was called. Alright. Sorry about that. Hold on, real quick. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I have a bit of a cough. Okay, reader's note. A picture is shown. The caption reads, "This photo shows how the colonists cooked. They hung big metal pots over open fires." End of caption, end of picture, end of reader's note. The colonists and the Wampanoag gathered for a 3-day feast in the fall of 1621 to celebrate the good harvest. There was fish, turkey, and deer meat to eat. There was cornbread, pumpkin and peas, beans and corn. The colonists bowed their heads and gave thanks for the food and for the help from their Wampanoag friends. Today we call this feast the first Thanksgiving. Like the Jamestown settlers, Plymouth colony had a rough beginning, but with help from the Native Americans, the colony was able to survive. The Pilgrims were also able to practice their own religion freely. America turned out to be a good place to settle. Reader's note. A timeline titled New Amsterdam is shown. There is some information in the timeline. The text says, 1520, blank. 1524, Giovanni de Verrazzano sails into New York Harbor. 1609, Henry Hudson sails on the present-day Hudson River aboard the Half Moon, and that's a ship, right? Nobody goes on the Half Moon because it's in the sky. 1624, the first colonists arrive in New Netherland. They settle at Fort Orange in Albany, New York. 1626, Peter Minuet buys Manhattan Island. Fort Amsterdam is built. The settlement of New Amsterdam grows. The settlement of New Amsterdam grows. 1647, sorry. 1647, Peter Stuyvesant becomes Director General of New Netherland. 1664, New Amsterdam is captured by the Duke of York. And finally, the year 1680 is blank. It has nothing on it. End of timeline, I might say. End of reader's note. Chapter 3. The Island Everyone Wanted. New Amsterdam, founded 1626. Like the Jamestown settlers, the Dutch who came to America were businessmen. They came to make money. In 1609, Henry Hudson, an English seaman hired by the Dutch East India Company, came to America on his ship, the Half Moon. He claimed land for the Dutch along the present-day Hudson River. They called this land New Netherland. The Dutch came to America so they could trade for beaver furs. At the time, Europeans were crazy for beaver fur. They paid a lot of money for hats and warm clothes made from the furs. So, reader's note, there's a picture is shown. The caption reads, beavers were found all over North America. Native Americans used them for fur and for food. End of caption, end of picture, end of reader's note. In 1626, in 1626, Peter Minuet was the Dutch director of New Netherland. He knew of a small island that the natives called Manhattan. The island had forests and rich soil, plus it had good harbors. Ships loaded with precious beaver furs and other goods could easily sail to Europe from the Ships loaded with precious beaver furs and other goods could easily sail to Europe from the harbor. It was the perfect island for a new Dutch colony. Peter Minuet made a deal with the Lenni Lenape tribe who lived on the island, and bought Manhattan from them. The Dutch called their new island New Amsterdam. At first, the Dutch and the many Native Americans in the area got along. They wanted to trade with one another, so they tried their best not to fight. The native people traded beaver furs, and the native people traded beaver furs for beads, metal goods, pots, guns, and iron tools. The Dutch did not go hungry like the Jamestown or Plymouth settlers did. They had brought cows, cattle, horses, sheep, and pigs with them. When they arrived in America, they had milk, cheese, butter, and meat from these animals. Ships from Holland sailed to America regularly with plenty of supplies and food. Reader's note: a picture is shown. The caption reads, "The Dutch brought donuts and waffles to America." I think they put that just for an entertainment, for like a little fun fact there. I'm not sure. Yeah, this next part doesn't look like a caption, so I think I'm gonna say end of caption, end of picture, end of reader's note. But let's see. The Dutch built good homes right away. Tall, narrow houses made of brick and wood. New Amsterdam had a church, a windmill, and a fort. The Dutch grew grains like wheat and oats on their farm. Oat on their farms. Sorry. They also grew vegetables and fruit to feed the people in the colony. Yeah, that doesn't look like a caption. So yeah, that's good. The Dutch settlement grew quickly, but England was jealous of New Amsterdam's success. In 1664, England's King James II sent 2,000 English soldiers to take over New Amsterdam. The Dutch did not have enough soldiers to fight, so they had to give New Amsterdam to England. King James gave the island to his brother, the Duke of York, and the English renamed it New York. Today the island is known as Manhattan. Unlike Jamestown and Plymouth Colony, New Amsterdam did not have a rough beginning. It was not hard for the Dutch to quickly turn New Amsterdam into a lively trading place filled with people who came from many different countries. After the English took over the island, New York grew to be one of England's richest colonies. Reader's note: the bar graph at the end of chapter 3 here is a minute. However, the map after the bar graph is included. Reader's note: a map titled "The California Coast Under the Mexican Regime" is shown. So the title is "The California Coast Under the Mexican Regime." There is some information in the map. The text says many of the mission sites grew into big cities. San Diego, Los Angeles, San Jose, and San Francisco all began as Spanish missions. Spain built a chain of 21 missions on the coast of California. Each mission was more than a day's journey from the next. The chain of missions was called El Camino Real, or the Royal Highway. It was California's first road. End of map. And I think I should say end of map. End of reader's note. Chapter 4. The Dream of the Spanish. The California Missions. First one founded 1769. And the author was the first one who said the words first one. I was not. It's okay. Okay. The early settlements grew quickly. More and more people came to America. The early settlements grew quickly. More and more people came to America. By the middle of the 1700s, there were 13 colonies in the east, but there was still land in the west that English settlers hadn't ever set foot on. People heard stories that the west was a wild and dangerous place filled with fierce Native Americans. Who would be the brave ones to settle the west coast? Spain decided it would be the first. Spain had already settled Mexico, and California is next to Mexico. If Spain settled California, it could easily control trade routes along the Pacific coast. Spain used missions to settle the coast of California. Spain used missions to settle the coast of California. Missions were towns run by Spanish priests. In 1769, a priest named Father Junipero Serra was the mission president. Spain sent Serra and a group of Spanish soldiers on an expedition to start the first mission in Southern California. They left Laredo and Baja, Mexico for the long ride north. It took them more than 3 months to reach what is today known as San Diego, California. Father Serra wanted to build a mission right away, but he and his men needed supplies and food first. They waited for a ship to come from Mexico. It would bring them what they needed. They waited almost 8 months. Where was the ship? They were running out of food. Like the Jamestown and Plymouth colonists, Serra and his men were in danger of disease and starving to death. Many became sick and died. The men decided they could not wait any longer. They wanted to go back to Mexico. Finally, the ship came. Work on the first California mission began. See how much gold I have, yeah, guys? Yeah, sorry. Digging, I think they were digging, so I'm gonna do that, okay? Alright. The work was not easy. The priests, known as padres, had the job of making sure the native people would live and work at the missions and pray to a Christian God. Spain believed that if they converted the native people to Christianity, they would want to work for the Spanish. The padres taught them how to speak, read, and write Spanish. They gave them gifts of beads, clothing, and blankets. Soon the Native Americans did most of the work for the Spaniards. The mission buildings formed a square. The doors to the buildings all faced the center of the square, where there was a courtyard with a fountain. The church was the largest building. People at the missions farmed and grew their own food and raised their own cattle. Reader's note. A picture is shown. The caption reads, A mission was built around a courtyard with a fountain. The largest building was the church. It literally said that. Anyway, y'all don't have to listen to that few seconds of sentence because I already said that. The largest building was the church. I just notified y'all to make sure that happens. Church. Other buildings had rooms. Okay, so the caption reads, a mission was built around a courtyard with a fountain. The largest building was the church. Other buildings had rooms for cooking, doing office work, making crafts and storing supplies. The land just outside the mission was used for farming and grazing cattle, Some of the missions had forts called presidios. Soldiers protected the missions and the nearby native villages. I think that's the end of the caption. So end of caption, end of picture, end of reader's note. I think because a little later here there'll be a picture. So. Okay, hold on. I have to play some scary music here because some drama is coming up. Well, not drama, but anyway. I'm not sure if I played any of this music before when I did Alien Seekers, but okay. Many native people did not like being told how to live and which god to pray to. They did not want to be forced to work at the missions. Many of them rebelled and fought the Spanish. Troubles continued for a long time. The missions lasted almost 65 years. Yeah, I played this music before. Anyway. Oh, hold on. Let me see. Real quick. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, it's working. I thought it wasn't working. I thought I paused the recording when I had already resumed. I thought I'd resume the recording when I paused it. Okay, let's begin. Okay, reader's note. A picture is shown. The caption reads, "The padres showed the natives how to bring water to their fields of crops. This is known as irrigation, as I hope, as I think and hope y'all already know that." End of caption, end of picture, end of reader's note. By 1850, Spain no longer ruled Mexico, and California was now part of the United States. The Spanish priests left the missions. People claimed the mission land so they could have their own ranches and farms. The natives were now made to work for the natives were now made to work for the natives not forward, sorry. The natives were now made the natives were now made to work the land for the new to work the land for the natives. Okay, the priests left the missions. People claimed the mission land so they could have their own ranches and farms. The natives were now made to work the land for the new landowners, but they were not paid for the work they did. So I think they were replaced by mean landowners. I think the priests were replaced by mean landowners. But they were not paid for the work they did. For the did in 18 in eight in did. So this is still the same paragraph, okay? But they were not paid for the work they did. They did. In 1861, the missions were given to the Catholic Church. Over time, the empty mission buildings fell apart, but thanks to the success of the missions, Europeans and other people decided to move to California. But thanks, okay? Thanks. The missions helped people see that it was possible to farm the dry land and raise cattle. They discovered that California was a place filled with warm sunshine and beautiful mountains. Ships could sail to Asia and all over the world from California's Golden Coast. Ships could sail to Asia and all over the world. Ships and sunshine. They discovered that California was filled with warm sunshine. Was a place filled with warm sunshine and beautiful mountains. Ships could sail to Asia and all over the world Ships could sail to Asia and all over the world from California's Golden Coast. Ships could sail to Asia and all over the world from California's Golden Coast. Jamestown, Plymouth, New Amsterdam, and the California missions were all started in different places. At different times and for different reasons. Yet all these settlers had one thing in common. They all helped change America and bring thousands of new people to live and work in the new land. Trees were cleared, crops were planted, buildings were built, businesses were started, and laws were made. The land and its native peoples were changed forever. This is Rashida Powell. We hope you've enjoyed this unabridged production of First American Colonies, World Discovery History Readers, written by Yannick Wani and performed by Rashida Powell. This recording was produced by Scholastic Incorporated. Music by Dan Musselman. Copyright 2004 by CB Publishing, LLC. All rights reserved. Further reproduction or distribution in other than a specialized format is prohibited.